He hands the wheel to his wife, then closed his eyes and stepped on the gas. The wife, in order not to fall into the sea, she had to help him with the steering wheel. The car made it across the bridge, but there was a nuclear meltdown up ahead. Truman was about to make a U-turn in frustration, but the inspector called him by name, which made Truman realize that the leak was also a fake. He decided to abandon his car and run, but he's being chased by everyone. He had barely gotten away from his pursuers before a bunch of people popped up in front of him to stop him. He's surrounded by men in protective suits. Despite his best efforts to resist, he was still pinned to the ground by the crowd. Truman was taken home. He was on the verge of a breakdown. He just wanted to ask his wife for the truth, but she tried to avoid it. She finally got tough and started talking about commercials. Truman couldn't take it anymore. In the middle of the argument, his wife grabbed a knife, but the knife was immediately taken away from Truman. The wife had no choice but to scream at the camera for help. The words were unbelievable to Truman. The two men tug and Truman's friend pushes his way in. He takes Truman to the beach for a heart-to-heart talk. He brought up some funny stories about how they grew up, and he asks Truman if all this is fake. Is he a fake too? Truman was shaken, but what he didn't know, his friend was told to say all these things by the director. The director also said a lot of heartfelt words over the intercom. His friend repeated them word for word. Truman was touched, so the director arranged a father-son reunion scene. The moment Truman and his father hugged, the ratings of the program reached a new high. Even the director was moved to tears by the scene he arranged. Truman returned to his normal life, and the director finally let his guard down. But one night, the director realized that something was wrong with Truman's blanket, so they immediately arranged for a friend to lift the covers. Truman had really disappeared. The director immediately called all the actors to look for Truman, in order to get a better look. He even raised the sun in the middle of the night, but they couldn't find him anywhere in the town. It wasn't until they viewed the surveillance footage from the sea, that's when they got a glimpse of Truman. He overcame his fear and sailed his sailboat to get out of there. The director immediately had people go after him, but the people were all actors who didn't know how to drive a boat at all. The director could only turn on the storm on the sea. In an attempt to scare Truman away, a big wave came in, and lightning struck the mast. In the middle of the storm, Truman's trying his best to keep the sails full. This time there was no one to stop him. He was finally free to take control of his life. He tied himself to the ship. Even when the director turned the storm up, the boat was almost blown over. He never admitted defeat. He finally passed out in the sea. When he woke up, the sea had calmed down. He set the sails again. He sailed to the end of the sea, and it turned out that he did come to the end. There was a huge curtain, and he was banging on it as hard as he could, but the curtain didn't budge. Could it be that he couldn't escape the cage after all? Truman was getting desperate, and then he saw a staircase in the sky, and he climbed it. The moment he opened the door, a voice suddenly came from the sky. The director was trying to get Truman to stay.